Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on CHOOSEday. I am so grateful that it is your choice to be here today because on CHOOSEday, it is your day to show up the way you want to. Hi, I'm Vicki Townsend. I'm the founder of TheCafeD, and TheCafeD was designed to help you through a really difficult time to kind of pick yourself up by the bootstraps, find that the life that you want to lead from your point of transition ongoing. And so I've created TheCafeD because it was something that I wish I had had when I was going through my major transition of a divorce, and I couldn't find anything like it. So it's really important to me to create CHOOSEdays because I know that sometimes we can get stuck, because I know I was in a fog and feeling just totally not myself, couldn't pick myself up, and yet I had no place to turn. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad that you've joined us today, because today is really, really special. This is actually part 2 of finding your love again, and that was a really difficult topic for me because I didn't know that it would ever be something that I would ever be ready for. So today our very special guest, Gladys Diaz, is going to be joining us today to talk about how we can kind of shake it all off and find love again. If that's what you want in your life, this is today. This is the day that you want to be here. You want to absolutely listen and then connect with Gladys afterwards, because she is so amazing. She's been a dear friend for many years, and I'm so happy to have her here. Let me tell you a little bit about Gladys. Gladys Diaz, along with her sister, Michelle Roza, are known as the Love Twins. Yes, they're identical twins. And they are certified dating and relationship coaches and co-founders of Heart's Desire International. Through their unique and introspective approach to attracting love and creating intimacy in relationships, Gladys and Michelle inspire and empower women around the world with skills that have them going from being lonely singles, struggling girlfriends, and unsatisfied wives to women who enjoy their birthright to be loved, cherished, and adored every single day of their life. Their own experiences of heartbreak, Michelle is a divorced single mom, and Gladys as a widow, and attracting and creating new and extraordinary love have enabled them to relate to women who have experienced heartache and want to experience love again, but are frightened and unsure and unwilling to settle for less than extraordinary relationship. They are passionate about working with women and seeing the transformation that takes place when they remove the fears and barriers that have been blocking them from having loving, fulfilling relationships, so that they are able to attract, create, and nurture the relationships their hearts truly desire. And you can learn more about Gladys and Michelle and the work that they do through Heart's Desire International. So please visit www.heartsdesireinternational, and that's INTL.com. So welcome, Gladys. I know that Michelle couldn't join us on this portion of our webinar, but I'm so glad that you're here. So thank you so much. This is such a great topic and so important to people that have sometimes felt incredible heartbreak. They feel like their heart has been stomped on. They feel like they are numb. I know, at least that's the word I use for how I was. I was a combination of numb and in a fog. And that lasted for a long, long time. I'm coming out of it, and I'm really pleased because I've done the work. And so you're here today, and I want to talk about part 1 because I want everybody to listen to part 1 too, because we had some amazing stuff there for you. If you watch this, go back, watch part 1, because it will get you prepared for our next step. So thank you so much for being here. Why don't you give us a kind of a recap about what was on part 1?
Okay, so first I want to say thank you for the invitation, and thank you so much for inviting us back for part 2, because we really wanted to get, when we were in part 1, we talked about several things. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the slideshow so that people can see a little bit of the recap. Before I do that, though, I really want to invite those of you who are catching part 2 to go back to the link and watch part 1, because we really get in depth into the things that I'm sort of going to go over. And the feedback that we got after part 1 from most of the people who reached out to us was, my goodness, thank you so much. I had this idea that I was the only one experiencing these phases and stages that you talked about, and it's so helpful to know that I'm not alone. And that's one of our biggest messages that we want you to know, is that you are not alone. And I know it's hard when you've been part of a unit and all of a sudden you're divorced and you find yourself really feeling like you are in this completely alone. People don't quite understand what you're going through. People who have been through divorce might understand, but your experience is yours. So you know that your own heartache, your own struggles, whatever details and plans, and I know Vicky's providing so many resources to help you all with all of the different aspects of divorce. But if you can hear nothing else today, the message is you are not alone. And you don't have to go about trying to figure all of this out. How do I get my life back? How do I start living and loving again? You don't have to do that alone. So I just wanted to invite you to please go back to part 1, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen. You just let me know, Vicky, if you're able to see what I hope everybody sees.
Absolutely, there you are.
Okay, great. So for those of you who weren't with us, we just want you to know that our intention for the remainder of this series, part 2 of this series, is the same as in part 1. We want this to be about you. So even though there's hundreds, thousands of people listening to this webinar, watching this webinar right now, I want you to know I'm speaking to you. And I'm speaking to you because this is your journey, and your dreams matter, you matter, and finding love again does matter. Okay, I know a lot of times it's like, there's so many other things I have to deal with. Do I really need to, focus on my love life? Yes, you do. Because all the financial aspects and the legal aspects, all of that is important, but so are you. And if one of your dreams is to share your life, all the aspects of your life, even the messy parts, with someone who is going to love and accept and support and just champion you to the other side of pain, and to share every bit of the successes that you're going to be creating moving forward, then this is important. And we do need to relate to it as not a luxury or something I'll get to later, but something I want to get to right now. And so that is our invitation to you, that you, as you listen for yourself and listen for what begins to touch your heart. So if there's anything distracting you, if there's other windows open on your computer, if there's a phone, if there's children, you might need to put those away, or doggies, right? We were talking to Vicky before. Put those aside so that you can give yourself this time, okay? Because your love, your heart, your happiness does matter. And one of the things that we talked about in part 1 was we really wanted to let you know that the heartache that you feel is real. And it's not just real because, in a theoretical, hypothetical, invisible way. One of the things that we shared is that there is a grief process that you go through when all of your dreams and your plans and the visions that you had for the future end with a result, with a divorce. And the only reason it ends is because probably your partner was part of those dreams and those plans and the visions that you had for your life. So it doesn't mean you can't realize those, you can't manifest those. It just means that there is a grieving period, even when you're the one who wants the divorce. There is going to be a period of grieving the loss of what was. And all of that is perfectly normal. And, by the way, it's real. So the emotional roller coaster, Vicky was talking about being numb. For some people, it's an overwhelming feeling of anger. We're going to talk really briefly about the phases. For other people, it's it actually feels physical. The pain feels physical. Sometimes physically in your heart, but it can manifest with headaches, with digestive issues, with chronic neck, back, and shoulder pain, because a lot of us carry the weight of our problems in that area. But the heartbreak that you feel in your heart, that is real too. And one of the things that we talked about in part 1 is that there's let me go back for a second. There's actually a neurological manifestation of the pain. And we talked a lot about some of the studies that have been done, real scientific studies in hospitals and universities that have found that the brain is unable to distinguish between physical pain, meaning they actually tested people and they put a hot coffee cup on their forearm and watched the brain scans. Then they asked the same people to think about an ex, somebody who had broken their heart, and they did a brain scan. The same exact parts of the brain lit up, whether the experience of pain was being physically felt or emotionally felt through a memory.
And Gladys, can I just say that, and that's why I so want to encourage people that are listening to this to go back and listen to part 1. That study that you go into depth on part 1 was such an aha moment for me, and most importantly because it made me feel, and it not even made me feel, I began to realize that no, I wasn't crazy. All of that physical pain and even that fog is a very physical feeling. I felt like it was almost like an outer body experience, and it was real. It was not in my head, it was in my brain. And that was what I think that everybody needs to go back, listen to it, and understand that you are not crazy. This is your brain's way of dealing with information, and your brain doesn't know if it's real in terms of like a physical hot cup of coffee or an emotional pain. It reacts in the body the same way. So that was a huge aha for me. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. And the reason we share that is because people in your life, and everybody's going to go through their own process at their own rate. Like you mentioned, Vicky, at the beginning, for some people it takes a long time. It can go as fast or as slow as you choose. And what Michelle and I tell our clients is we can chip away at this pain with an ice pick and chip, 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 little by little. Or we can just take a wrecking ball to it, get rid of the crap that's in the way, which is what we're going to talk about today, which is mostly around fears, the fears that you have, not just the fears about moving forward, the fears that caused the relationship to end up the way that it did in the first place. But we can go as fast or as slow as you want. The thing is that the pain is real and you don't have to stay there. And that's the good news. So you want to feel it, you want to experience it, because repressing it is just going to lead to a whole bunch of other stuff. It's going to come up at the wrong time in the wrong way. But it is real. And I think people need to hear that, because your friends and your family members may be telling you, oh, it's time for you to move on. Oh, you just need to get over that. Oh, he wasn't good for you anyway. And all of that may be true. And if you don't know how to do that, it's not going to make a difference. It's going to frustrate you, and you're going to have that even more of a feeling, I'm in this alone. Because now nobody understands why it's taking me so long. Hell, I don't even understand why it's taking me so long. So I'm glad that made a difference for you. And we did hear feedback about that making a difference for people as well. So some of the stages that we talked about, I've alluded to it, and I'm not going to go into them as in depth as we did in part 1, but I just don't want to skip over it either. The first one is denial. This cannot be happening to me. And I remember feeling that even when I was dealing with having lost my husband. There is like that, it's happening, but you just can't wrap your head around, this is not what I signed up for, this is not why I got married. After everything we've been through, I just can't believe that this is happening to me again. And the thing that happens with denial is, it's just as Vicky said, it's a defense mechanism. Your brain is simply doing what it's been wired to do, which is to keep you safe. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, I joke, but it's true. It's why we're here and the dinosaurs are not. Our brain has figured out how to keep us surviving. And one of the ways that it does that is with these symptoms that we're going to be sharing, and one of them is in being in denial. So not really accepting it, not wrapping our head around it. The problem is that it can really lead to some people obsessing, and obsessing especially with the ex, and obsessing with trying to get him or her to change her mind, and it can become very difficult to deal with the reality of what's happening. So you're not taking care of the details and the things that you need to be taken care of because you're so in denial. The second thing is, why is this happening to me? So then this, and some people call it feeling like a victim, and it's not that. It's not about feeling like a victim. You really start to ask, what did I do to deserve this? What could possibly have gone so wrong? And it can lead to depression. This is the part, the next few are the ones that lead to that. We were talking about the roller coaster ride. These are the dips, the deep dips, which is, why is this happening to me? I don't understand this, and it's really difficult, right, to deal with that. And one of the things that Michelle shared in this part was that when a person is experiencing loss, your brain, the blood flow to your brain actually changes, okay? And there's a part of your brain called the anterior cingulate cortex, and that's the part that's responsible for regulating physical pain and distress. It becomes more active. So that's why crying, many times when you have like a really good cry, you actually do feel better physically afterwards. This is the part that gets activated during this stage, and it's why it's important that you actually release the hormone, the stress hormone prolactin from your body. So crying is okay. So the people who are telling you to stop crying, tell them, thank you for sharing, and I just want to cry. And I thank you for supporting me in expressing my feelings. Basically, you're nicely telling them to shut up and leave me alone and let me grieve.
Cry.
Let me grieve. It's my divorce, and I'll cry if I want to, right?
Can you go back for just a moment? Because I have a question about when you're with loss, you said the blood to the brain. I'm taking notes, by the way. I hope everybody else is too. The blood to the brain changes.
Mm-hmm.
Does it decrease? Does it slow down? Does it go too fast?
It becomes more active. So it's why you feel almost like a surge of emotion, like you almost feel like you're hypersensitive to everything. There's an increase in the blood flow, and that part of your brain becomes more active than it would in a more calm and serene state.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting. And so prolactin, crying releases prolactin.
Yes.
And we need to do that because what does prolactin do?
Well, it's a stress hormone. So you're actually releasing the stress from your body. And it's interesting because tears that are caused by onions do not release prolactin.
Or that. Yes.
So there's an emotional release, obviously, when you're crying, but there's also a physical, chemical, hormonal release that's happening as well. Now, we're not saying spend your whole day crying, but if you need to, don't pretend like you've got it all together. And definitely one of our things, this is why we emphasize coaching so much, because your coach is going to love you, but your coach is not going to get wrapped up in your story. Your family and friends, sometimes they get wrapped up in your story, or they try to cheer you up, talk you out of it, but don't really help you through it. So how do you get through the sadness and still keep functioning and still keep moving forward? So that's one of the things. So we're not saying cry all day, every day. Cry when you need to, and then just know that that's okay, right? That there's nothing wrong. Hold on a second. There we go. So the next one is, how can this be happening after everything we've been through? And it doesn't matter how long you've been married. You're going to have that question pop into your mind because you know everything that you've been through, the good times, the bad times, everything in between, the ups and the downs. And so during this stage, there's a lot of wondering why. So it's, none of these happen linearly. First of all, you could jump around, but these are the most common symptoms of heartaches. There's other ones. We just don't have time to go into all of them. Okay? So in this one, what begins to happen in this stage is that you're usually it's following the denial stage, and it's another defense mechanism that's designed to stop the feeling of love and loss from being experienced. Okay? Now what happens though is staying too long in this state, that's when you start getting cynical, sarcastic, and resigned. And resigned it's a really sad place to be, because that's where hopelessness starts to come in.
Mm.
And you're just like, I don't care, it doesn't matter. And it doesn't just have to be about this, by the way. I remember when I lost my husband, bills were coming, and I just couldn't. Like,
Mm.
I knew there would be consequences, but my brain just couldn't go there right now. So that fear, that cynicism, and that resentment towards him or her, but also resentment towards the whole situation and everything that's happening, that happens a lot in this stage. And then the next stage is, I don't need him and I don't need anybody. I'm very familiar with this one. This is where I tend to go when I'm feeling stressed or sad. And that's why I spoke at the beginning about you don't have to do this alone, because guess who tells herself that all the time? You
Right.
don't have to do it alone. And a lot of times when we are successful women, powerful women, strong women, we tend to believe that leaning on other people or allowing other people in is a sign of weakness. And it takes a heck of a lot of courage and strength to tell someone, I could use your support. So it's
Mm.
actually being vulnerable. Number one, it's the only way to connect to somebody. A man, if you're a woman, romantically, the only way you can ever connect to someone is to be vulnerable with them. But it also is going to take you being vulnerable with the people in your life who you trust. You don't have to share your story with everybody, and you actually want to avoid doing that, because then you become the person that, as you're coming, people already know they're going to hear about your ex, they're going to hear about everything he or she is doing, and it becomes overwhelming for people. But there are certain people in your life that you can be really selective about who you're going to use to lean on and allow them to support you. And that can be your friends, your family, and of course a coach, somebody who's going to stand for you when you don't feel like you can stand on your own. Okay? Another, why isn't, the other one is feeling completely out of control, because a lot of the stuff that's happening may not be in your realm of control. You can't make somebody else not want to get divorced. You can't make somebody else want to get divorced if that's what you're trying to convince your ex-partner of. You cannot control anything except what's right here in front of you: your thoughts, your words, your actions, and your reactions. That's the only thing in this entire world that you have 100% control over. So when things are happening, and sometimes it feels like they're moving too fast, and sometimes it feels like they're moving too slow, and you're getting frustrated, you might be in this stage. And this is where we see that and I apologize if I say women a lot, Vicky, because I know that you have men in the group, but that's who we work with the most. So if I do that, I'm not leaving you men out. I know that your happiness and your relationship and having love in your life is just as important to you as it is to women, but I might slip into that just because that's who we always talk to. So this is where we see that a lot.
And if I can interject on that, while you don't work with men, you have people in your team and in your resources that can help men specifically go through
Absolutely.
it well. Because I
Yes.
know, because I've referred you
Yeah.
to men. So it's definitely so men. I think that men can learn a great deal from this as well. So.
Oh, absolutely. And what women may, especially women who are hurting, may want to know is that it is just as important to them to be
Mhm.
happy in love. When
Mhm.
they begin looking for their the one, they really are looking for the woman that they're going to spend the rest of their life with, just like we are. Okay? So one of the things that begins to happen in this I feel so out of control stage is you start grasping for what makes you feel like you're in control. And sometimes that can be turning to or away from things like food. So you'll either start excessively eating or not eating very much at all. So it's not uncommon to see rapid weight gain or rapid weight loss during this time. There's also, it could be turning to other things like alcohol. Some people throw themselves into their work. A lot of, we've seen, especially with women, throw themselves into the children because there's so much guilt around what this is doing to the children and how it's affecting the children, and they begin to forget about themselves, and you're no good to anyone when you forget about you. You just aren't. And so that's another thing to keep in mind. And then what's another thing? Oh, and then another thing is trying to control others. And this is where what we're going to talk about today comes in. Because if you don't resolve and distinguish the things that got in the way this time of having a great relationship, all that stuff, you know how the little knapsack the hobo has, all that stuff goes right into the next relationship with you. So what starts to happen when you're feeling out of control is then you feel you have to control everything and everyone, including who gets to talk to you, who you're going to date, what he gets to do, and all of this is wrapped up in fears, which is what we're going to be jumping into in just a second after I do the last one, which is I'm stuck. How can I move forward? And being stuck or staying stuck in the muck, because there's going to be times when you're going to go slower or faster, like I said, but staying stuck in the muck of heartache, it can happen when a person is really unwilling or unable to disconnect themselves from their thoughts and their emotional stage. And I was talking to a woman the other day, Vicky, and I can guarantee you she did not think that it was going to be this, but it's been over 15 years since her divorce, and she's still not in a relationship. And if you would have asked her 15 years ago, she probably thought what many people here are thinking, oh yeah, I'll get into a relationship when I'm ready. And how she reached out to me was she sent me an email and she said, I'm ready. We had spoken before. She said, I'm ready for you to hold my hand, because I'm clear that trying to do this on my own, it's just not working. I keep doing the same things. The same results keep showing up. So there is a point where you have to be willing to say, I'm ready to move forward. Even if you don't know how. You don't have to know how. You just have to be ready and then reach out to the people who can help you. Okay? Because this state requires a lot of introspection. It requires a lot of looking within. And sometimes we don't want to go there. Okay?
Right.
Because it's scary. But it's necessary if you want to move forward.
You have to be very self-aware, right? Which is, you and I live in a world where we do a lot of personal development work ourselves, as well as teach it, right? But to actually become aware of the fact that you are stuck takes some interpersonal work, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Michelle and I, the women that we tend to attract into our work are people who are very much into their personal development. A lot of times we'll hear, I've done all these courses, or I'm certified in this, that, and the other. I teach this stuff. But sometimes it's hard for the teacher to teach thyself. And it's not even that. It's that somebody else like me, I'm not attached to your choices, but I'm committed to your happiness.
Right.
So I'm not attached to you dating that guy again, but I can tell you that if you've dated 6 people and every single one of them had something wrong, you want to take a look at that. You just want to become curious as to why every single person has something wrong with them, because it's probably just fears that are coming up, and you're shutting down before giving yourself a chance to get to know the other person, because you're so scared of having to go through this type of heartache again. I will not be burned again. Right? I'm not going through that again. And so, yeah, the introspection, the willingness to look within it can be there. And then when you're working with somebody, it just makes it easier, because the other person can guide you to see. I keep using this analogy with everybody that I speak, because it's so powerful to me. When I'm in my car and I happen to look in my rearview mirror, until the moment that I see that car in my rearview mirror that was in my quote-unquote blind spot, it did not exist for me. Not that it wasn't there. It was not in my realm of existence until the split second that I see it, and then I have a choice to either ram into it or swerve. And that's how our fears are. Our fears, a lot of our limiting beliefs, the things that are in the subconscious right now, they don't even exist for you. You can't do anything about them because you're not even aware that they're there. But when you do the introspective work and you have someone helping you and you see it, it's not like, that was there. It's like, okay, now what do we do about this? Like, how do we flip this?
Mm-hmm. Knowledge is power.
It is.
To be unwilling keeps you stuck.
It does. And so now let's talk about how do we get unstuck? Because one of the things, those of you who didn't, well, I hope you already took our invitation to go back to part 1. So when you did part 1, You did a short quiz where we asked you to think about where you are right now in terms of moving forward. So we asked 10 questions. If you haven't done that, I want you to press pause right now, go to the other webinar and take that quiz, because if not, nothing is going to make sense moving forward. Okay? Because you need to know where you are. We're like the GPS. If you don't know where you are and where you want to go, we cannot help you get there. So you do need to know where you are. Are you still stuck? Are you ready to move forward? And the answers to those questions that we asked you is going to give you a little bit of insight into how ready you actually are to start moving forward and get yourself out of this muck that you may be stuck in. Okay, so when we began, after we did the quiz in part 1, so welcome back to those of you who just were open to taking the coaching and went to the other webinar. One of the things that we talked about was when you begin to feel like you're ready. And you can hear the hesitation, because I think that when I think back to my journey, Vicki, if you would have told me that the night that I met Rick was the night I was going to meet my next husband, I would have told you were crazy. I had gotten stood up by somebody else that night. So I was only out because my best friend saw me. I was like a weeping ball of you know what. And my best friend was like, no way, we're not doing this. We're not going to stay home on a Friday night crying. We're going out. And so I was like, okay, but I was kind of like, I'm just going to go out to have fun. I'm going to have fun because I was heartbroken. And of course, where did I go? This is why I'm never going to date. This is why I'm going to be alone for the rest of my life. This is why, men XYZ. So right. I was in that state, right? But I had a friend who was strong enough to say, let's just go have fun. Nothing else but have fun. So I hesitate to tell people, oh, you need to know when you're ready. You may not feel ready right now, but you know that you don't want to stay where you are. And if you're not feeling ready, but you just know you're no longer willing to stay in the place where you are, and maybe you've been for a while, then that's what we're going to invite you to explore with us right now. And I love this beautiful quote, which is, just when the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. I'm going to get emotional because that's what it was like for me. That day I was like, you know what? I tried. I opened my heart. I was willing to go there, and this is what happens, right? And then that night my life changed forever. And I met Rick, and I was not ready. I had not completely gotten over my late husband. I didn't stop loving him like in a split second so I could start loving somebody else. I allowed myself to continue loving, and Michelle, that was one of the most powerful things Michelle said in part 1, was when she shared her story of being able to say, you know what? I love him. When she and Arnie broke up for that time, I love him, but I love myself more. So I'm going to choose to keep loving him and move on. Mm-hmm. And that, for me, if we give you nothing else, if there's no other gift that you get besides that your heartache is real and you're not going crazy, it's that you don't have to be 100% ready, and you don't have to stop loving someone in order to love someone else. The only limit that our heart has as far as its capacity to love are the limits we put on it. So if you're feeling, I can't, I still love him, I still have feelings, I still have memories, just consider that there is an opportunity for you to move on, and you don't have to finish all of your healing to move on. You can be healing as you move on. Okay? So let's talk about how to do that. So right now, right, and where you are right now, hopefully in having listened to part 1 and now this part of part 2, instead of resisting the love that's in your heart, the desire to experience love again, to love and be loved, okay? Instead of pretending that desire doesn't exist, and instead of replacing that desire for love with anger, resentment, or resignation, all of which, by the way, only serve to cause you more pain than it could ever cause the other person, okay, your ex, namely, want to invite you to give yourself permission to love and give yourself permission to move on. And you may not know how to do that, and that's okay, because that's what we're here for. That's why we're here to help you. But for right now, just give yourself permission to entertain the thought of loving and being loved again. Okay, just allow yourself to love and let go. I'm going to give you just a few seconds to actually give yourself permission. So where is it that you start the process of moving on and getting unstuck so that you are ready to find and welcome love into your heart again? The only place to start is right at the beginning, okay? And where is the beginning? Right where you are. Wherever in the process you are right now, this is your beginning. Today, this moment can be the first moment. I know it sounds, cliche, but it really can be the first moment in the rest of your life, because you can make choices today that significantly and completely alter the course that you're on right now. Okay, so you've already taken the first step by being on part 1 and part 2 of this webinar. And if you accepted our invitation that I just made to you a few seconds ago, then you've also taken the next step in giving yourself permission to love and move on. So as Vicky said before, right, knowledge is power. You can only change what you're willing to acknowledge. And right now, you've acknowledged, 1, that you want to move past the heartbreak, and 2, that you want to move toward a new life where fulfilling, passionate, and reciprocated love is possible for you. And change is great. It can be great, let me say that. But change of any kind, even good change, the kind of change that you want, it can bring up fears and doubts. And even when it's the best type of change, where it's leading you exactly where you want to go, there's going to be uncertainty. And whenever there's uncertainty, that automatically brings up fear for us. And what happens is that fears and doubts, they are what serves to keep you stuck. They keep you stuck in the pain and unable to move forward. It's like that paralysis, that fear paralysis that a lot of people talk about. So what is it going to take to move forward? It's going to take some faith. It's going to take a lot of faith to move past the doubts and the fears so that your heart can open up to giving and receiving love again. Now, for some of you, these fears and these doubts that you're experiencing when you even think about the possibility of being in another relationship, consider that those fears and doubts got created when maybe they got created when your marriage ended, but consider that a lot of those were there way before you even met your spouse. Okay? But when the marriage ended, it was possibly one of the first times that you experienced this level of loss and heartache. The level of loss and heartache that you've been experiencing kind of felt like the rug was being pulled out from underneath you, and it caught you by surprise. Excuse me. Now, for some of you, and I just want to invite you, if anything comes up, I'm going to say this right now because this part is where we're looking deep within, and this is where resistance starts to show up for some people, because it's not easy to see and hear some of the things that are resonating. If anything is triggering you right now, here's what I tell my clients. If you're getting triggered, whether you're getting excited or you're getting upset, just know that it's because what's being said is resonating with something within you, which means it's reminding you of what you already know to be true for you. Mm-hmm. So this is an absolute opportunity for a breakthrough. Excuse me. So don't get mad at yourself and don't get mad at me. If you're feeling resistance, just allow it. Excuse me just a second. I have to cough. I'm going to have to mute myself for a second.
Sometimes, I sit there and for whatever reason, when I'm on doing these things and I have my camera on, all of a sudden, like I take my pencil and I move it around and I do some things and I probably am going, why am I doing this on camera? And I have a big bottle of water always next to me and I always want to drink it, but I just don't because I look like an idiot. But anyway, so
I'm sipping on my tea in between. It's only because I'm sure you can hear it. I've got this really bad cold, but I was so committed. I did not want to not do this because I know there's so many people counting on this. I really do.
Absolutely.
So if I have to excuse myself, just bear with me. I made it through, what, 30 minutes without coughing? I'm so proud of me.
Yeah. It's great.
Okay. So just know that you have that feeling, right, of the, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Hold on.
No worries. We've got your back, and we are going through, the whole process of, and it's so true. You can only change what you are willing to acknowledge, and that also, requires some inner work, because you have to know what's not working in your life to be able to say, yeah, I need some help there. I need to change that area of my life. I need, I need some work in, the area of forgiveness or anger. One of the things that you talked about, was the anger, carrying that anger and resentment. I created a meme, and it was like, it's the anger and the resentment and the bitterness and the blame and all of those things, that negative energy that you feel about with your ex, that keeps you tied to your ex. It actually keeps you two bound together. So hopefully that's one of those aha moments, because if you can let go of that, you can open yourself up to finding love again.
Absolutely. And when we talk about, keeping yourself tied, that's why I said before, it's causing you so much more pain. It's not even impacting the other person. It's like that very common quote, that resentment and anger is like drinking poison and hoping that it'll kill the other person, because it's really what it's doing is it's killing you, and killing you in the sense of, we talked about all those physical, neurological, actual things that are happening in your body, but it's killing your hope, and it's killing your faith that things can be different for you. And when you think about the fears and doubts, like I said, for some of them, you may have realized a lot of them when the relationship ended. But for some of you, a lot of these fears and doubts have been with you for as long as you can remember.
Yes.
There was a fear that this is how things were going to end up somewhere, right? And they were created a long time ago, probably when you were a child, and you believed in that state. We believe that everything is possible. So you believed in happily ever after. You didn't only believe in happily ever after, you believed it was possible for you, and you believed that dreams could come true. And then something happened, or someone said or did something that disillusioned you. Maybe you saw your parents get divorced. Maybe someone you loved passed away. Someone that you trusted or had on a high pedestal let you down. Or your first crush or your first real boyfriend or true love didn't return the love that you were giving them. And instantly, what happened in those moments of disappointment and pain is that everything that you believed about love came crashing down around you, and you became disenchanted, completely disenchanted with what was possible for you. Maybe it was possible for other people, but not for you. And in each and every one of these situations, regardless of how it happened or when it happened or even with whom it happened, not only did your experience of relationships get impacted by that heartbreak, so did the relationship that you have to yourself. So when that happened, what also got impacted was what you felt was possible for you when it comes to love. And you made a decision about yourself, about men, about relationships, about life, about love. And regardless of when and how it happened, you want to consider that those decisions that you made so long ago are still impacting you today. Mm-hmm. They're still running around in your mind like the questions on this slide. So the decisions that you made became your reality, not an idea, but your truth. This is what became true for you. Things like, no one will ever love me again. That was mine for right after my husband died, for a while. What's wrong with me? Why does this keep happening to me? Right? I'll never fall in love again. I will never be able to love someone like I love this person. Or love hurts, or even stronger, love sucks, right? Or all that's crap. You know, Michelle and I hear it, every version of this that you can imagine, we hear it from women who are in pain. And what happens is that these thoughts become your reality because you told yourself with such conviction and certainty these things, and they became real for you. And just consider that they're still real for you. And it can be what's having stuff show up, particularly things that keep happening, that one thought of, why does this keep happening to me? Mm-hmm. If you're seeing patterns, and a lot of the women that we work with, one of the first things we do is we do pattern work. We have them analyze the last few relationships, and it's amazing each and every time how there is a string that weaves throughout. It didn't matter where they met him, in another country, what age they were, if they were in college, if it was afterwards, there's a pattern. And it's only because these thoughts became your reality, and they're still real for you. So what happened was that it went from being a statement or a conversation in your head to a blind spot, like what I was talking about before, that's been impacting what you are able to see when you look at your life, your relationships, and, by the way, your future. And it's what has you repeat the same mistakes over and over, or create new mistakes that end up with the same results over and over again, and allowing that same pattern of behavior to happen with different people and even under different circumstances. And then each time you think to yourself, this time's going to be different. But is it different? Is it ever different? And so this is one of those things that may be scaring you right now. You may be resisting it. And I just want to invite you to just take a deep breath and release it, and know that there is nothing wrong with you. There just may be some things that you've been doing that don't work. So let's get to the work of seeing what those things are so we can transform them. Okay, because transformation can only happen when we see what's been standing in the way. Okay, so let's take a look at the next slide. And as I said, when we go through changes, okay, even when they're good changes, there's going to be some fear involved. There's going to be some hesitation because it's uncertain. A lot of us want to know what it's going to look like. We're on a date, for instance. 5 minutes into the date, we've already decided this isn't the man I'm going to marry because our children, and, you know, like, how do you know? He's barely drank his water, right? And you've already made a judgment.
And we've written the final epilogue.
Exactly. And for some people, it's like, what is it, Tinder? Nope. You know, swipe left. There's been no chance, right? So even when you're not on Tinder, a lot of us are swiping left before. And it's just fear. I'm afraid this isn't it. I'm afraid he's going to hurt me. I'm afraid this is going to end up like the last one. So for you to be empowered in life and in love, you first have to change your thinking. Nothing at all is going to change. We could sit here and give you the 20 tips for having an extraordinary date, and that is not going to matter at all if you don't change your thinking. Because what happens, if you can imagine, I always use this visual, and I think right now you're looking at the side so you can't see me, but I want you to picture yourself sitting at a table, and there's another person of the opposite sex, or if you're gay, you know, another person that you might be interested in sitting across from you. And then there's the table. So picture the table. And then picture your lap. And on your lap, I want you to picture a bundle, like if it was laundry, of fears, doubts, limiting beliefs, dysfunctional patterns, more fears, more doubts. Then there's your chin, and then it's your face. That's what goes on the date. It's you and all of this stuff between you and actually getting to know the other person. So your thinking needs to change, because what you think and what you tell yourself, even if you never ever say it out loud to anyone else, is always, always impacting you and the choices that you make. So if you remember the study that we talked about at the beginning of part 1, where the scientists found that the brain can't tell the difference between physical pain and social or emotional pain, how is it that the same organ, the very exact same organ that keeps everything in your body going and keeps you alive, isn't capable of telling the difference between actual physical pain and social emotional pain? Well, it's because the brain believes what you tell it, and it remembers what you tell it, regardless of whether it's really happening or not. So how can that be? Well, here's some more science for you. Here's some more facts. I know some of you love the facts.
I love this stuff.
Take your notes, Vicky, because your brain only retains less than 1%, and the actual number is 0.00001% of what is actually happening. Less than 1% of what's actually happening. That's it. It takes less than 1% of what's actually happening, and the rest is processed as your interpretation of reality based on the decisions that you have made in the past. Everything else besides that less than 1% is all interpretation. And guess what's feeding that interpretation? Your fears, your doubts, and your limiting beliefs that you've been repeating and repeating and repeating about yourself, men, relationships, women, all of it. So if the brain doesn't recognize what's happening as memory, it can cause confusion. And that's when it registers it as dangerous. That's when you begin to experience fear. I don't recognize this. There's a panic. Some of us act like literally our life is in danger. That's how our body responds to it. And as a result, those stress hormones get released and your brain kicks into survival mode. And the thing about being in survival mode is that you can't make rational decisions when you're operating under that level of stress. And I'm going to say it this way. It cannot make rational decisions when it's operating under that level of imagined stress, because whatever you're afraid of is not happening. You're imagining that it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. So whether you're on autopilot based on what's happened in the past, or you're in survival mode based on the unknown future, the actions and the behaviors that are associated with both of those situations impact your experience of what's happening in the present moment. And it's all happening without you even being aware that it's happening. So on this next slide, we have a fun slide coming up. You're going to see proof of how easily your brain can and does fill in the blanks for you in life, and how it can alter what's actually happening in reality. Okay, so I want you all to take a look at the screen. I'm going to give you just a few seconds. So look at the screen in front of you. And I want you to ask yourself, are you able to read what's in front of you?
Yeah,
Even though, right? It's making sense, right?
Yes.
Even though the actual words do not make a lick of sense, okay? They don't make a sense. Almost every single word is misspelled. Okay, so they don't make sense in the way that they're written. Your brain is working to make sense of what clearly makes no sense at all. It's just fascinating. Now consider that our brains do this all the time with everything, with what he just said, with what you read on the profile, with what just happened in an interaction. Our brains do this all the time, and we do this with more than just brain teasers. We do it with people. We do it with relationships. Our brain is constantly trying to make sense of what doesn't make sense to us. So we tell ourselves things like, this is the way it is, even when it's not really what's happening. But it looks real, so it becomes real to you. And it becomes the truth as you know it to be. So I'm going to ask you to do something. I want to ask everyone to just think about something that happened in your last relationship. And now I want you to think about the decision that you made about that situation. And if you're wondering what it was the thought that came up almost immediately when you thought, oh, I remember XYZ.
Right.
Okay? Now I want you to think of how that decision is impacting you today. And be really real with yourself. How is it impacting the way that you see yourself, the way that you see other people, particularly people of the opposite sex? How is it impacting how you see relationships and what's possible or not possible in relationships? That decision that you made in the past is fully present for you in every interaction that you have. And it comes up especially when something happens to remind you of that past situation. Most of the time, we're not dealing with what's happening in the present moment. We're either fast forwarding to the future or reminding ourselves of something that happened in the past. And then our brain goes about trying to either make something happen that we're afraid is not going to happen, or avoid something from happening that's already happened. And that's what's causing all of the confusion and all of the fear and all of the doubt when it comes to love. So how is it that you shift your thoughts and your conversations and even your view of reality so that they empower you rather than allowing them to disempower you and continue impacting you when it's not even happening? And how do you take a story that you've been telling yourself for months and years, and for some of us decades, about what's actually possible for you in life and love, and transform it so that a new future becomes possible and available now? And how do you let go of the pain and heartache of the past so that you're able to make conscious choices that keep you here and now, and actually help you to attract what you want in your life rather than what you don't want or you're afraid of attracting into your life, or what you've already had? How do you do that? You make a commitment to yourself that you will do the work that's required to let go and move forward. You draw a line in the sand and you say, you know what? The madness stops here. This cycle of hurt and pain and holding on to the past is over, and I'm ready to let it all go. And I'm ready for a new future that's free from my past. And I'm ready for that right now. Even if I don't feel 100% ready for it, I'm ready for that change right now. And then you take actions that are consistent with that commitment. So today, we just want you to take a step forward. And we want to take that step forward with you. A step forward into a new future. Not one that's better or improved, right? The new and improved version of the past, but an actually new future that's waiting to be fulfilled. And it gets fulfilled by you. And we want you to know that you don't have to do it alone, right? I said that's one of the things I want you to take away from today. We've worked with hundreds of women around the world. We're talking Europe, Saudi Arabia, South Africa. It doesn't matter. Everybody's saying the same things. It's hard to date men in this city. It doesn't matter where they are. This is a really hard place to find a good man. Spain, all of them, right? So we've worked with women all over the world, women of all ages, in all stages of their lives, who are ready to break free. And we've helped them to break free from the past, and then been there to witness the extraordinary change that takes place, and many times been at the weddings and at the births and at the engagement parties of women who at one point had the thought, it's never going to happen for me. Okay, and we've even received emails from women who say that, these are, the emails that we get, Michelle and I are usually in tears when we're reading them, but, when you get something from a woman who says, you helped me to, this happened at our last event in May, just a few months ago, you helped me to disappear pain that I had not been able to release for years, and with years of therapy. That, you can't put a price on that. You really can't, and it's why we're so passionate about what we do. And we just attended an engagement. Michelle attended the engagement party of one of our clients last month, and got to see her basking in the joy of being with her fiance. She just had a baby last week. And in the last 2 months, 2 or 3, we get emails sometimes after the fact of our clients have married the loves of their lives after years of wondering if they'd ever really get to have the experience that they always dreamed of. So, and the only reason I share this is because I want you to know that they also thought it wasn't possible for them until they realized that it was. and then everything changed. So we just invite you to listen to your heart and pay attention to what it's telling you. Okay, because in your heart you already know that you want to make a change. And we just want you to imagine freeing yourself from the heartache and the pain of your past relationships. And what if you had the skills that would allow you to break the dysfunctional relationship patterns once and for all? And what would it be like for you if you knew that exactly what you could do to make all of your dates fun, how to be, simply irresistible to men and being irresistible in life, and how to attract high quality partners that are attracted to you, right? What if that was possible for you? Wouldn't it make sense to explore a little bit and just have a conversation to see, okay, what are the next steps in order to be able to break free from the past? Because here's what I'll tell you. It's going to be a process, but it doesn't have to take long. It does not have to take long. And like I said, we can either do the ice pick or the wrecking ball. We're going to let you lead, but we're going to invite you to stretch. We're going to invite you to stretch yourself, because we tend to want to stay in our comfort zone, and the results that you have in your life right now are the ones that have been produced inside of your comfort zone. The only way to produce something new is to stretch outside of that. Okay, so how do you do this? And I know we have to wrap up, so I'm just going to give you your next steps, and you can hit the remind button if I go too fast on your player. But the first thing we want you to do is to go to the website that's on your screen. So it's heartsdesireintl.com/findloveagain. This was created specifically for those of you in TheCafeD. Okay, CafeD, excuse me. You want to go to that website, and then you want to go ahead and request a survey. You're going to get a survey because we asked you some questions in part 1, but this is specific to you. So it's not a general thing. We want to be able to provide you with personalized feedback on your survey by offering you a private breakthrough session, a love breakthrough session. And this is a $175 value. That's what it costs. If you go call us to find out how much a private session costs. It's $175, but we're gifting it to you simply for being part of this group and for the beautiful invitation that Vicky made to us to be able to serve you. And when you come to that session, the only thing you have to be ready to do is to open your heart to the possibility of loving again.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Oh, then more, and there's more, and there's more. I love it.
There's more, because for the first 10 of you, and we offered this with part 1, we're going to go ahead and re-offer it to another 10, just because we're generous that way. That's how we play. For the first 10 of you who call to schedule and actually make it to your call, okay, because this is about taking decisive action that's consistent with the goals that you say you have for yourself, we're going to go ahead and give you a $100 Heart's Desire card, which means that you can use that towards the purchase of an event, a live event, or an online event, or a program, or anything that you want to work with us in the future, because we want to continue our relationship with you as well. Okay? Did we mention that we're committed to you having and experiencing the love that you want? So this is like an added incentive, because we know that some of you are in a place right now where you're wondering whether or not you're ready to take the first step. I just want you to know on this call what we're going to do is we're going to talk about where you are. We're going to talk about the results of your survey, give you personalized feedback specifically for you, and then we're going to tell you what your best next steps are. So there's absolutely nothing to lose. I'm going to invite you to receive. Remember, you're not in this alone. We're here to be your guides on your love journey. And we want to make it as easy for you as possible. So we don't want you to wait, because waiting is one of those things that keeps you stuck in the muck. And there is no cavalry coming. You are your own cavalry, right? And we're here to help you, but you have to take the first step. Meet us halfway, and we'll take you to the other side of the pain and the heartache that you've been experiencing. Okay? So don't wait. Put yourself first. And then we want you to write a note to your past. And just tell your past, thank you for the lessons. And dear future, I'm ready. I'm ready to experience the love and the happiness, the joy, the passion, and the intimacy that my heart truly desires. And that is our wish for you.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Oh my gosh, Gladys, this is awesome. So thank you so much. And I just want everybody to know we are going to go to our our very private Facebook group. And Gladys is going to be there to answer your questions if you have any. And for our community members, and if you're not a community member, I want you to know that there are experts just like Gladys that are not only, Gladys is our love expert, but we have other experts to help you pick yourself up and move forward so that you can choose the life that you want to live after this amazing transformation that you're going to be going through. So we have everybody for you back there in our very private Facebook community. There she is. There she is. So what I want to invite you all to do is to join us on our private Facebook page, our private Facebook group. And doing that, you do that by joining us at www.TheCafeD.com and click on join and become a member. It's so simple to do, fast to do, and it just starts at $7 a month. So we want you, I know, right? So we have people like you back there to answer questions, and the great part about this is that when people go back there and ask questions, even after this webinar is over, just because you're not on this with us live does not mean that Gladys is not going to be back there from time to time. She peruses it just like all of our other experts do.
Yeah, and Vicki, I like that you also tag me when you know that somebody's asking a question, because that sends me a notification. So if I haven't perused the group that day, she'll tag me, or she'll send me a private Facebook message and say, somebody has a question for you, and Michelle and I will be happy to jump in there, because we know that you might start watching this and then pause and then come back to it, and we want you to watch this over and over again, ours and other people's. That's why they're made available to you as members, so that you don't have to by chance be on their live. You can actually go back and rewind and listen to the parts that really resonated with you.
Right, so questions. So join us in just a few minutes. Go to the CHOOSEday, sign up, starts at $7 a month. Join us, because it's life-changing stuff back there. And why do I know that? Because these are the things that I wish that I had had when I was going through it. Gladys, thank you, and I will see you in just a moment on our Facebook group. Good night, everybody. Have a great day, and thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. Bye, everybody.